What if I told you that some of the world's most popular pastors in Africa's megachurches are making a living out of false miracles, staged healing, and other unspeakable things? It's hard to believe what these men have turned the house of God into. From scandals to promising a shortcut to heaven, here are the 15 most deceptive black pastors in the world, and trust me, you won't believe who's on number 7. 15. Pastor Chukwuma Nwokeocha. Pastor Chukwuma Nwokeocha appears to be a lot more than he claims to be. He is the founder and general overseer of Tongues of Fire Restoration Ministry in Shogunle, Lagos State, Nigeria. A few years after the church was established, he had already stolen the limelight, becoming one of the most popular Pentecostal preachers in Lagos. Obviously, Pastor Chukwuma was a charismatic man of God, preaching with so much energy and promises of spiritual deliverance. But we're not sure what his congregation is being delivered from, the devil or his manipulative messages. Over the years, he has leveraged his position as the overseer to gain the trust of his congregation, all to grow the influence of his church and, of course, make himself more famous. Pastor Chukwuma might appear like an angel of light on the altar, but there seem to be some skeletons hiding in his closet. Aside from being good with manipulative words, the pastor seemed to also be good in bed. In 2016, this pastor was arrested in Lagos by the Nigerian police for allegedly kidnapping about 30 young girls between 10 and 15 years old and using them as slaves. This seemed like the height of his deception, but it was only a scratch on the surface. It's hard to believe that Pastor Chukwuma Nwokeocha had been doing this for years, sleeping with married women and young ladies in the name of special deliverance or casting out their spiritual husbands. Well, I guess he learned his lesson after sleeping behind bars, but Pastor Chukwuma is only a saint compared to this next pastor. 14. Pastor Chukwuemeka Odumeje. If WWE and the church had a baby, it would certainly look exactly like Pastor Odumeje's ministry. Known as the Lion or the Indabaski, this Nigerian pastor turned deliverance into a martial art at his Mountain of Holy Ghost Intervention and Deliverance Ministry in Onitsha, Anambra State, Nigeria. Odumeje turned himself into a public figure by body slamming his members on chairs, on the floor, and even on the altar. To him, violence is the only way to break through. Shockingly, his church is always packed with multitudes, not to mention those streaming his services online. At this point, you can't help but wonder if he's a pastor, a comedian, or a heavyweight athlete. To cap it all, he made millions from selling merchandise that had his many nicknames branded on it. His services feature him throwing people across stages, performing wrestling moves on possessed congregants, and shouting catchphrases that went viral on social media. The Liquid Metal, The Fight Doesn't Begin, the Indabaski Feroz, and several other funny names. Well, it didn't take long until disaster struck for him. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 99% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thank you so much. Now back to the video. Security agents had his church building demolished after bundling him out of the church, claiming that the structure was built without any approval from the government. If this doesn't scream fraud, then I don't know what will. But just when you thought you'd seen the worst, this pastor came with even weirder tactics. 13. Pastor Toby Adegboyega.
For my birthday gift, they asked me to do a video and come proper.
Only a few people in the world dress more lavishly than Pastor Toby Adegboyega. Designer suits, luxury cars, and lavish parties with celebrities. As the founder of SPAC Nation in the UK, his congregation was youths and former gang members. As you might have guessed, his Sunday sermons will leave you wondering if Jesus really wore a $10,000 suit in his time too. His approach to the gospel was stranger than you think. Drill rap worship songs, flashy church services, and young leaders called Spartans who drove luxury cars as proof of God's blessing. For poor members of the church, well, all these could make them rethink why they are even alive. The problems began when former members started speaking out. They described his church as a system where congregants were pressured to take out loans for seed offerings with promises that these financial sacrifices would bring divine multiplication. The UK government finally finally stepped in, with the High Court ordering SPAC Nation's closure in June 2022 over financial mismanagement. By December 2024, Adegboyega was already facing deportation from the UK following allegations of fraud and exploitation. Even a blind man could see that the self-acclaimed pastor was only milking his congregation dry to fund his lifestyle. But I guess his $10,000 suit couldn't save him from the court suit. 12th Pastor Chris Okafor. If you're looking for the pastor with the most drama, then Pastor Chris Okafor of Mountain of Liberation and Miracle Ministry is your best bet. His Lagos megachurch, founded in November 2003 at Ojodu Burger, Lagos, Nigeria, is probably the center for spectacular healing services that draw thousands who want a slice of their own miracle moment. Aside from using his church as his money printing factory, Okafor seemed to specialize in healing deformed limbs, particularly a condition he calls shortening of the arm. And this is where his story gets interesting. During services, he would dramatically stretch these supposedly shortened arms while cameras zoomed in to capture the shocking miracle in real time. It might make you stop to wonder if Nigerians were experiencing an epidemic of shrinking arms in his services alone. His popularity took a massive hit when some curious viewers noticed that the same woman with the same withered arm was getting healed in his church and then getting healed again in other churches across Nigeria. Videos emerged showing this miracle actress receiving the healing from at least 3 different pastors. Only a few Nigerians have a steady source of income like this woman. That's what happens when pastors like Chris Okafor chase miracles over the gospel. But there is even more to say about it. This next pastor, 11th Apostle Johnson Suleiman. Certainly one of the most controversial preachers in Nigeria. Apostle Johnson Suleiman founded Omega Fire Ministries in Nigeria, known for the large crowd that could fill an entire stadium. But it didn't take long before his miracle services started going viral on social media, and then the money and insane visibility came pouring in. The next thing we saw was Apostle Johnson Suleiman driving around in bulletproof cars and with heavy bodyguards for protection. The question is, protection from what exactly? But here's where things get a little darker. In April 2024, one of his former associates came forward with a bomb. He claimed that Suleiman allegedly provided substances to people to fake resurrection miracles. That's right, actual chemicals to make it look like the dead were coming back to life. This wasn't his first controversy either. He's been called out multiple times for false prophecies and manipulating vulnerable followers. Yet thousands still pack his services every week, hoping for their own miracle. It's sad to say that these pastors make it look like starting a church is the easiest route to generational wealth, so maybe we should all become pastors. However, this South African pastor took his stage drama to a whole new level. 10. Prophet Shepherd Bushiri. When it comes to selling miracle products, Prophet Shepherd Bushiri deserves an Olympic gold medal. Known as Major One to his followers, Bushiri founded the Enlightened Christian Gathering Church in 2008 in Mzuzu, Malawi. The church was later renamed Jesus Nation Church, and Bushiri has transformed it into a mega ministry empire spanning South Africa and Malawi. His dramatic services weren't just church gatherings, but spiritual exercises that drew thousands seeking miracles that shockingly came with price tags attached. Bushiri sold miracle items at premium prices and charged outrageous fees for private prophetic sessions, convincing his followers to invest in schemes that somehow always benefited him. Before long, he was flying private jets while his followers were barely keeping the lights on at home. But the one that broke the internet was his most outrageous claim of walking on air. It sounds silly, but of course his followers went wild, convinced they were witnessing divine power at work rather than clever camera tricks. When serious fraud charges worth millions finally caught up with him in November 2020, Bushiri performed his most impressive vanishing act yet, disappearing from South Africa to Malawi overnight to escape legal battles. Some people still believe in his ministry, but it's crystal clear who this self-acclaimed prophet is, a man who cares about nothing but his pocket. However, this next pastor is Bushiri's right-hand man and the brain behind all his schemes. 9. Prophet Justice Hara. Even the best magicians eventually reveal their secrets, and in March 2025, one of Prophet Bushiri's right-hand men finally pulled back the curtain. Senior Prophet Justice Hara was the mastermind behind Bushiri's spectacular miracles. After years of orchestrating the smoke and mirrors of the enlightened Christian gathering church, his conscience eventually had the best of him. In March 2025, he confessed that none of the miracles were real. He admitted that they planted actors in the crowd, paid people to fake illnesses, and then pretended to be healed after playing out a well-rehearsed script. Well, it's no news to most people because it was clear since day one, but what's more concerning is the crowd that still believes in the ministry. Justice's revelation was like finding out your favorite movie scene wasn't real, but simply a camera trick. But that wasn't even the end. Bank statements showed millions in church donations flowing directly into luxury purchases through a maze of offshore accounts and shell companies. It's hard to see how much they defrauded the church just to fatten their selfish desires. Turns out the real miracle at Bushiri's church wasn't healing the sick. It was convincing thousands to empty their wallets while believing they were making heavenly investments. Before we go further, I'd like you to take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, but it is your own way of encouraging us to keep making interesting videos like this. Now, back to the video. 8. Prophet Alf Lukau. Prophet Alf Lukau wasn't only skilled in manipulating gullible people, but he also had a PhD in staging a resurrection. As head of Alleluia Ministries International in South Africa, Lukau built his fame and reputation on dramatic miracles that would make Hollywood producers jealous. People paid serious money for his exclusive prophetic sessions, believing that he could speak directly to God on their behalf. For years, people have been falling for his schemes, but all that changed on February 24, 2019. When Lukau decided to raise the dead to add to his list of supernatural miracles. In the staged service, a man in a coffin suddenly sat up, supposedly brought back from the dead by Lukau's touch. The video spread worldwide, briefly making Lukau the talk of every religious conversation. However, the miracle soon unraveled faster than anyone expected when journalists discovered that the dead man was actually an actor in an elaborate scam designed to boost church attendance and fatten those donation boxes. It became clear as daylight who Prophet Lukau was, a fraud behind the pulpit. But you help me decide, who did the resurrection fraud better, Lukau or this next pastor? 7. Prophet O.C. Benjamin. Prophet O.C. Benjamin's resurrection services have to be the most dramatic movie ever written. This Nigerian preacher built his religious empire on the most dramatic claim possible, raising the dead. As surprising as it sounds, his services featured violent exorcisms and people mysteriously coming back to life, drawing thousands willing to pay for his anointed products. These resurrection videos spread online faster than anyone thought, bringing him more fame and fortune in the shortest time. Well, it didn't last long. In April 2025, Benjamin dropped a bombshell confession that left his followers shocked to their bones when he confessed that he had faked everything. He admitted that those resurrection miracles happened by injecting healthy people with paralyzing substances that made them appear dead, and when the drug wore off during service, they'd come back to life. If that isn't the height of fraud, then I don't know what is. The most disturbing part of his story wasn't just his own deception, but his claims that he didn't invent these techniques, but they were taught to him by more established pastors who've been doing this for years. If there's one thing Benjamin learned the hard way, it's that resurrecting a dead man is actually easier than resurrecting a reputation once people find out you're a big-time fraud. Speaking of fraud, no one did it better than this next pastor. 6th Prophet Hubert Angel. Prophet Hubert Angel claims to be a sent man from God, but his action is the exact opposite of his name. As founder of Spirit Embassy, later rebranded as Good News Church, Angel built a devoted following across Zimbabwe with a combination of charisma and strategically targeted prophecies aimed at the rich and powerful. His calculated networking seemed to have paid off when he was appointed as presidential envoy for Zimbabwe, along with diplomatic privileges that practically placed him above the law. However, all his schemes came crashing down in April 2023 when hidden cameras caught him casually explaining how he could launder millions through his church network using diplomatic bags. Now that's something only professional frauds can pull. The man wasn't just playing church, he was running a masterclass on how to exploit religious authority and government position at the same time. Despite footage so incriminating it would make most criminals confess on the spot, Angel somehow managed to keep both his diplomatic passport and his pulpit and continued to preach as if nothing had happened. You know you've reached a new level of corruption when even government protection is just another tool in your arsenal of religious exploitation. We can simply conclude that Angel used his office as a prophet for profit. If you think you've seen the worst yet, this next pastor will shock you even more. 5. Prophet Passion Java. If Jesus rode a donkey into Jerusalem, Prophet Passion Java clearly missed that lesson about humility. This Zimbabwean preacher founded the Kingdom Embassy in 2010 in Chitungwiza, Zimbabwe, but he built his entire church on the foundation of the prosperity gospel. His online platforms say it all, showcase luxury cars, designer outfits that cost more than you earn in an entire year, and a lifestyle that leaves everyone with one question. How did he get his money? Well, the answer is quite obvious. Java turned prophecy into a profitable business by monetizing every aspect of ministry. His church events feel more like exclusive concerts, with VIP sections offering premium access to his anointing. It appears like the Holy Spirit works better from the front row if only you can pay the price for a seat. By August 2021, even other religious leaders were raising eyebrows at the weird nature of his ministry. Former team members started talking about church donations funding his designer wardrobe rather than community work. It just leaves you speechless when you find a self-acclaimed pastor displaying luxury on social media just to get more popularity. It's even more shocking how his members still believe in him even when all fingers point to him as a scammer. But he certainly isn't a better scammer than this next pastor. Now tell me if this is just foolishness and pure deception. Speaking of deception, how do you explain a pastor who sells holy water to his congregation? 4th Prophet T.B. Joshua. Prophet T.B. Joshua was the pastor who made international headlines for selling holy water to his congregation. As founder of the Synagogue Church of All Nations, one of the most popular megachurches in the world, Joshua created a spiritual empire that attracted visitors from across the globe seeking miracles through anointed water. Just a sprinkle could supposedly cure everything from cancer to HIV, and as expected, the demand was more than Domino's Pizza. What made his fame skyrocket was his televised healing services, with people in wheelchairs suddenly walking, blind people seeing, and diseases vanishing instantly, all captured on camera for the world to see. The church became a destination for spiritual tourism, with foreigners flocking to Lagos hoping for miraculous interventions. Now it looked like an atmosphere of miraculous activities, but that's only half of the story. The darker side of this ministry unfolded in 2013 when 4 people died in Ghana during a stampede for his miracle water. Even worse, in 2014, a guest house at his church headquarters collapsed, killing 115 people, many of them foreign visitors who had traveled thousands of miles seeking healing. At this point, it's probably time to reconsider whether God is really blessing the water or if there is more fetish stuff going on that we haven't seen yet. However, the next Nigerian pastor decided to add a different flavor to his fraud. 3rd Prophet Melody Ajija. In Warri, Nigeria, Prophet Melody Ajija's healing services were so dramatic that they eventually attracted the police, who weren't there for spiritual guidance but with handcuffs ready. As founder of Lightway Ministry, Ajija specialized in spectacular healing performances where blind people would see, paralyzed people would walk, and tumors would vanish instantly. His services drew a huge crowd desperate for their own miracle, but Ajija assured them that their breakthrough was only one generous donation away. In Prophet Melody's ministry, money breaks every yoke, and expected gullible people emptied their wallets, hoping to be next in line for divine intervention. The collection baskets filled up faster than you can imagine, while hope spread through his congregation like wildfire. But the problem is, they all waited in vain. Then, in 2019, everything collapsed after he got arrested when a video leaked showing Ajija casually discussing with his team how they staged these miracles. No one saw that one coming, not even his haters. However, Ajija responded to his arrest by suing the Delta State Commissioner of Police for 2 billion naira for releasing the confession video, which he eventually lost. But if this sounds like the worst, then you won't believe the next one. Second Prophet Joshua Iginla. Most pastors claim to cast out demons, but Prophet Joshua Iginla took him to a different level. At Champions Royal Assembly, Iginla built his reputation on deliverance services so much that they made horror movies look like a joke by comparison. His services featured people rolling on the floor, making strange animal noises, and being dramatically set free from invisible tormentors while cameras captured every scream and convulsion for his online audience. These performances proved extremely profitable, with his congregants giving generously after being freed from supposed demonic influence. As the competition among other deliverance ministers grew louder, Iginla also stepped up his game just to maintain his audience's attention and, of course, the donations. It didn't look so bad at first, until during a crusade in Cameroon, Iginla took his drama a step higher by claiming an 11-year-old girl had transformed into a python during his prayer session. According to him, this serpent child was somehow responsible for Cameroon's economic and spiritual problems. Now, we've heard of pastors selling anointed oil, holy water, and even miracle handkerchiefs, but this has to be a special kind of madness. This might sound funny, but the entire congregation believed it, proving that some pastors have PhDs in brainwashing blind and gullible people. Our final profile proves that even the most popular pastors have skeletons they don't want you to see. 1. Bishop T.D. Jakes. While many pastors build churches, Bishop T.D. Jakes built an empire so massive it makes most corporations look like a joke. As founder of the Potter's House in Dallas, Texas, Jakes transformed a local congregation into a spiritual juggernaut with over 30,000 members. He has this commanding presence that could make anyone pee in their pants once he steps in. Let's not even mention the multitude that forms his congregation, enough to fill stadiums across America. Jakes didn't stop at simply building a megachurch. In 2022, he flexed his influence beyond the pulpit by securing a jaw-dropping $1 billion partnership with Wells Fargo for community development projects. Apparently, when Bishop Jakes talks, even banks listen with their checkbooks open. But while we soak in all his glory, his reputation faced a crazy shipwreck in November 2024 when he filed a defamation lawsuit against Pastor Dwayne Youngblood, who accused him of misconduct, which Jakes strongly denied. The stress took its toll when he suffered a medical emergency mid-sermon that same month, collapsing dramatically right before his congregation. Let's not even mention when he allegedly took $1.7 million from his church to purchase a luxury apartment. To be fair, you can have the most fire-packed sermons, but any stain on your name could run you to the ground, and Bishop Jakes sure had a fair share of it. We've just seen how these pastors built their wealth on miracles that were nothing but smoke and mirrors to deceive gullible people. But if you think they are the only ones in the game, then you're wrong. Check out our next video on the most powerful black pastor's wife in the world. You'll be shocked at what you'll discover.